So in this week's episode, we're going to look at the final type of chord today. It's just somewhat an ambiguous chord, as we'll find out, but some prerequisites. I want you to now consider the following. So how we name notes along each string, in particular the top two strings, so the E string and the A string. Also, we're using the electric guitar today as well because this particular type of chord is better suited for electric guitars. So anyway, the top two strings, the E string and the A string, they're called E and A because when striked openly, they sound the E note and the A note respectively. So along the fretboard we have markers. These are called frets, and every time we place our finger on one of these, we sound a different note. And we go along these in what's considered a chromatic fashion, so no particular scale. They go all the way up to an octave, which is the original E note at the 12th fret. So here is an open E. Here is the E note fretted at the 12th fret. And when we go along from the first fret here all the way up here, we get the following notes. So E, of course, we then get F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, no B sharp, just a C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and then you will also notice there's no E sharp as well. And the same is for the A string as well. So open A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, A sharp, and A. Sometimes you can refer to notes as flats as well, but we will look at that later. I don't want to over confuse you, so for now on, for the rest of this series at least, we will look at the notes as sharps. Flats will look later on in scale theory. The next prerequisite is last week I was teaching you some... Right, there's my cat again shouting. I was wanting to appear in the video. In the last episode, we were looking at left hand muting techniques, where we were coming off and on and stabbing the kind of note out. In this one, I want you to now focus on what the picking hand is doing in particular. And when strumming, we usually have quite a flexible type of hand. Certain chords in particular, you may want to rest your hand on the bridge, so to speak, so have the palm lightly resting over that, and the pad or the flesh of your palm, I want you to lightly press along the strings, not really press, but lightly touch the strings, shall we say. And when fretting a chord, I want you to then sort of imagine this kind of, it's called a chug if you like, really, in a way. When you're chugging the string, it will sound quite like this. We will find later on in this episode, when studying this new type of chord, this is called a palm mute. Anyway, enough of me babbling, let's move our way to the drawing board to discuss this final type of chord. Okay, so in the first 3 episodes of the Practice Corner, we've looked at chords. More specifically, we have so far looked at open major chords. These were A, C, D, E, and G major. We also looked at A minor, D minor, and E minor. That was in episode 2, of course. In episode 3, the last episode, we then completed the picture of the missing B chords and indeed the F chord families, if you like, really, and looked at bar chords, and these give us access to B major, B minor, and F major and F minor. Incidentally, they also give us access to the missing G minor and C minor as well for the previous chord families as well. In this episode, I want to focus on our third and final chord type, if you like, for this lesson series, and that's power chords. And power chords are somewhat mysterious because they are neither major or minor. The keen-eyed out there, for the keen-eared as well, if you notice the introduction to this lesson series that I rather crudely did and put together, or use power chords. Well, what are power chords? Well, let's make our way, of course, to the practice corner and discuss how these look and are played, knowing what we know now from the prerequisites on the guitar. This section is going to be particularly quite short because there are only two real shapes I want you to know, using the E string and the A string. And there are only two fingers needed. You can use three fingers for these. I'll show you, of course, in the corner. We'll have the chord diagram displayed. So the first shape is basically using the bottom three strings, so the E, A, and D string. And we're going to basically take our index finger, and we're going to let's test our new knowledge now of the fretboard, and let's now look at perhaps a sharp power chord. So we're going to take our index finger and place this on the 6th fret of the E string, which is an A sharp note. And we're then going to take our third finger and place this on the count, really, with the 8th fret of the A string. And these are the only two notes you need for this chord. And that's A sharp. You can place your your pinky can be placed on the 8th fret of the D string as well, and that gives you an octave of the, if you're counting from the D and using what we'd already discussed at the beginning of the episode, that also gives you an A sharp note, but an octave higher. And that gives you more of a fuller chord, if you like, really, but most of these chords can be played with just these two fingers. The second shape is exactly the same, so whether or not I'll put an image here, I do not know. I think I'll put an image here actually, just to clarify this, but let's just see if we take the same shape that we did for the A sharp and lower this onto the A string and the D string, thus giving us in effect a D sharp power chord. And notice how easy it is to effectively drop. This is why it's very useful for rock music and speed music in particular. You can very quickly adjust this shape down because it's the same effectively. And again, you can also use your pinky and place this on the 6th fret of the G string to get you the D sharp note, but an octave up. And that's basically the two shapes. You'll also notice how ambiguous they are as well, and we'll discuss that now at the drawing board. Power chords are particularly one of my favourite families of chords, and this is predominantly because they are ambiguous, meaning if you're playing with other musicians or playing along to a backing track or jamming along to some of your favourite artists, using power chords in particular can be a great way of allowing other musicians who maybe say more experienced or know a bit more about scales to be able to jam over in particular, but also they fit in quite well with other chord families in particular. So we now know open major and open minor chords, for example. Later on down the series we may look at jazz chords and that sort of thing, but power chords can fit in with these as well. So when you're struggling or perhaps wanting to jam with other musicians as well from different types. So rather than ramble on about this, I want to show an example of what we know first based on the first three episodes of this series. So again, I want you to focus on two guitars. So guitar 1, guitar 2, like we did last week. And I want you to imagine guitar 1 to be playing the electric guitar. We're going to use an electric and an acoustic in the next example, sonically, to really emphasize this difference. And give it somewhat of an art rock feel as well, because these two can be used art rock and art metal style. So power chords are predominantly, the nomenclature is a 5, a superscript 5. It doesn't have to be, for reasons we will come on to much later in another lesson series. For now, if you see a 5, that's a power chord. And I want you to imagine this progression: F to B flat to C to F. Simple, no split measures for the time being. Now, using what we used at the beginning of the episode, I want you to now imagine guitar 1 is chugging this chord or palm muting this chord. 8th feel, say roughly. Ta 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 ta. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and chug 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 chug. You even do it downstroked, for the sake of this. Right, now I want you to imagine guitar 2, first of all, doing the same type of progression, this time with major chords. So F major, B flat major, C major to F major. And I want you to imagine it doing it with this type of strumming pattern here, which should kind of go along the lines of ta, ta, ka, ka, 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 ta, ta. This is sort of 16th note feel. We'll come on to that in the next episode. We're looking at more complex strumming patterns. So for now, just try and make up something that fits the metronome in particular. We're going to play these together in the practice corner in a minute and see how they compare to when we do it the same again, this time with the minor chords, with the backdrop of the power chords. So we're going to use F minor, B flat minor, C minor to F minor using the same strumming pattern, and compare the two to see how they sound sonically. So let's make our way to the practice corner and analyze this. Okay, so in a previous episode, as described at the drawing board, we looked at two guitars playing off each other rhythmically to sound somewhat different and slightly sonically different as well when we looked at the relative notes belonging to each chord strummed. In this example, the sonic difference is going to sound a lot more pronounced because we're going to now look at the difference between major and minor chords in a backdrop of palm muted power chords. So the ones we looked at the drawing board were F, B flat, C to F. Fairly straightforward, simple, no split measures. I want to just demonstrate the difference. So again, if you have a metronome set at 115, and if you can imagine the power chords, if we were to just strum them chugged or palm muted, it would sound like this. 2, 3, 4. And that is going to be with the major chord. So in the corner, I'm going to try something different in the corner. So along with that, you should have seen a picture-in-picture with the sound of me playing the major chords along with that. Now I want you to consider that, and we'll do the same again, but this time with the minor chords in the corner. I will now play the minor chords. 2, 3, 4. Did you notice the difference there? So both power chords did not change. The shapes were just the same. The chords that were fretted on the acoustic sounded different. I picked an acoustic as well because it works well sonically along with the backdrop of an electric playing as well, and you get some of an art rock type sound to it as well, which I quite like. So anyway, I hope you noticed the difference there. If not, play the clips back through again really to give you an idea of the difference and to really demonstrate how ambiguous power chords really are. And this is somewhat quite useful for when people are playing along with you, or someone who's more experienced along with you, knows some scales, can then choose between major and minor scales over those particular backdropped chords. Anyway, enough of me rambling on again. Let's make our way to conclude the lesson back at the drawing board. So I hope with my amazing video editing skills that are getting better and better as I do this, I hope, you could at least hear the difference between the two progressions when using these power chords, which are ambiguous, as a backdrop for the sonic variations, as you like, between these two progressions. that guitar to the acoustic guitar was demonstrating. Again, I do hope you have enjoyed this lesson. This is our final set of chords looking at this lesson. I think we might look at some case studies now to complete the series. In the next lesson, we'll perhaps look at 16th note feel and rhythm patterns to play along to. In the meantime, please give a like, comment, or if you feel that way inclined, even give me a subscription. It's very much appreciated. And I shall see you in the next episode.